So, after 2 years, finally, at last, there seems to be some sort of peace. And I hopefully, I'm not saying that too prematurely. Hopefully, there will be, you know, some, I think, hopefully, form of lasting peace here in Gaza and in the Middle East with that. Hopefully, we can only literally cross our fingers at this point because I have said since the very start of this conflict, the two biggest problems and obstacles to this, first of all, right-wing Israeli government. We've seen that from Benjamin Netanyahu. We've seen all the quotes throughout all the years. You can have a litany of just really horrible, disgusting quotes that these people have said about what they wanted to do to the people of Gaza and their intentions to just annex the West Bank and just take it all over. Um that has been their full stated goal, and it is still their stated goal in all of this. That has not changed. And thus, at the moment, they will and still remain probably one of the biggest objects to peace in the Middle East. And also, guys, let's be honest here. Don't go holding your breath if you want to see Netanyahu uh, up before the Hague. That is never going to happen. Don't hold your breath over that at all, because that is not going to happen. As much as many people would agree that, he absolutely deserves to be, put on trial, I agree with that as well. Let's be real, that's not going to happen. As much as, he deserves it, it's not going to happen. Now, the likelihood he might get, I don't know, caught out in some of that corruption stuff that's going on, that's been chasing him for the past couple of years, that is very likely to probably maybe put him in jail. So you might just have to settle for that, to be honest, at the end of the day. The other, of course, big obstacle to peace in the Middle East is Hamas. And I have said this for years over the past 2 years. There is a problem with a lot of people on the left when it comes to discussing Hamas. Sure, they all denounce Hamas, with a simple breath, and exactly, we should all be denouncing Hamas. But there is very little conversation that is had about the problems that Hamas have, been causing over the past 2 years. The fact that it was their attack on October the 7th that caused, all this. It was them constantly holding these hostages, even though holding these hostages gains them what? What does it gain them? It's just caused immense suffering to the Palestinian people. And when the Palestinian people protested against Hamas, against their leadership, there were brutal reprisals from Hamas. Hardly, shall we say, the protectors of the Palestinian people. And not only that, right now, there is inter-conflict happening on the streets of Gaza between now Hamas factions. So it is very likely there will probably be some form of split in Hamas, as sometimes there is, because remember, what's Hamas's ultimate goal? Well, it's pretty much the eradication of Israel. That's not going to change either. So you've got two diametrically opposed opponents that both want each other to be, wiped out. The problems that started this conflict, the problems that are still under the surface, still smoldering, that will fuel the continuous driving of this conflict, are still there. Unfortunately, very much unfortunately so. This may not be a lasting peace. This may be a ceasefire for a couple of years. There will be bumps, absolutely, along this road. It is very likely, things will happen during this time, but hopefully we can, hope, because the order of the day at the moment, uh, that this will last, and that, at least the Palestinians can rebuild some semblance of their lives again after this conflict. Because this isn't going to take years to solve, it's going to take decades. That's how we are going to have to be measuring any progress in this. And the thing that a lot of us are going to have to really take a strong look at is the fact that it was Donald Trump that got this peace. Now, he's recently been denied um, the Nobel Peace Prize, but I'll tell you what, if this ceasefire holds, if this ceasefire manages to hold more than a year, then hey, tell you what, screw it, give it to him. Put his name on the list. Like it or not, Donald Trump managed to bring peace to this, where our Western institutions that are meant to be the problem solvers to such a conflict like this have failed. Patient diplomacy here has very, very much failed. And it took an authoritarian, unfortunately, to solve this problem. That is something we are going to have to, I think, confront. How, for example, our institutions that we rely on when something like this happens, how can we reform our institutions so that something like this never happens again? Well, UN, uh, you know, reformation, I don't know, call it what you will, changing the UN, that's going to be incredibly difficult. Incredibly difficult. Incredibly much so. And I think that we have to have a very deep conversation at some point about the failures of the UN during all this. I think that the failures of the UN during the last 2 years have been, quite frankly, been put down to virtue signaling and, unfortunately, ineffective action to try and bring this conflict to an end. And who has brought this conflict to an end? Well, it's Donald Trump, by acting, unfortunately, quite like a mafia boss, of saying, "Hey, you know, Netanyahu, you've pretty much achieved all you want to achieve. You can't really achieve any more. If you decide you are going to continue, well, bad things are going to happen." And of course, to Hamas, if you want to basically end up with anything more than a crater, I'll let Netanyahu off the chain, and then you'll be staring down some really very bad things happening in the future. So we have peace, but it is being signed on the auspices basically of a mafia boss. This won't be a lasting peace. How long this peace will last, that's anyone's guess. But what comes after is, I've always said, the most important part of this. Um, Hopefully, we will now start to really see the advocation of the two-state solution once again, that we can start going down that path, and that we can get some sort of, reconciliation between both sides to sort of bring this to an end in some way, to sort of bring down the tensions, to make sure that this type of thing doesn't happen again. That it's going to be very difficult. It is not easy, and it's not an easy subject to talk about. I'll be the first one to say that I don't have any solution. I don't have too many solutions to all this. Um, but it is something we're going to have to live with. That we've looked at a situation that has been going on for 2 years, that has been tried to be sorted out with, careful and patient diplomacy, and the person who got the peace was an autocrat, an authoritarian. Will this peace last? Oh, I hope it does. But we'll see. So, as always, let me know what you think about all this down below as well. And of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.